So with me and many other people going back into the Crew 1 and playing through this game again, guys, one thing I did want to do is kind of look through the game and go, okay, well, which cars may have not been in the Crew 2 or Motorfest? And yeah, I did end up stumbling upon one that honestly makes no sense. Now, I do want to say right off the bat that this is probably not the first time this has happened in the Crew, or even other games for that matter, as licensing and stuff like that can kind of play a role, where some of the older games or different games might have a vehicle than the newer ones aren't going to have it, so it is going to make sense to a certain extent. But you know what, though? This truck specifically doesn't make any sense, man. The Dodge Ram SRT-10, this thing was not only going to be very fun to use in the Crew 1, in fact, I was using it a good amount in Perf, and I was also using it in the street category as well. Personally, I love the dirt version of it. And also, I've kind of been enjoying the rally raid. So it's going to hit pretty much every spec there, including circuit as well. So you can pretty much use this truck in any spec in the game. And it was honestly going to be a fun time on top of it. Now, the odd thing, though, is I was like, okay, well, let me go on the Crew 2. Maybe I'm losing my mind. Yeah, no. So turns out, guys, this truck is not in the Crew 2, which is kind of odd at all. We are going to have the Ram TRX, which is basically the only Ram technically in the game. That is not going to be the SRT-10, though, and I was like, okay, well, maybe it's in Motorfest, and I ended up checking Motorfest, and turns out it's not in that game either. So I was like, huh, this is kind of weird, so I did end up going back into the Crew 1, driving this truck around a bit, and I'm like, man, this thing would have fit the game pretty well, guys. I feel like in dirt and stuff like that would have been a really fun thing, which I do mean by dirt, I'm talking about rally, by the way, as in dirt in this game was going to be the rally class, but it had a different name to it. Either way, though, this truck was going to be a fun vehicle to use in every single category. And it honestly does make me wonder, man. I kind of look at some of the vehicles in the game. Like, I remember in the Crew 2, wasn't there a plane and a boat that was just, like, pretty much removed not too long ago in that game as well? We also do know in Motorfest, I also think the performance Hummer that was in the Crew 1 is also not going to be in that game, aka like the Street 1 would be in that game if it was in Motorfest. But that vehicle's also not going to be in there, so it kind of makes me go, I wonder if a licensing thing happened. Maybe something happened where Viper, or like AK Dodge, maybe they didn't want this truck to be in there with the V10. I don't really know, man, but either way, guys, if you are playing the Crew 1, I would recommend trying this truck out. Not only is it fun to use, but it's also pretty dang good. Now, is it going to be like the best vehicle in every category? Well, I would have to do a lot of testing on that stuff if you did want to know. But if you were looking to drive around or just mess around an SRT-10 Dodge Ram, which personally I have seen two of these. One of them was a very long time ago, but this truck is so dang dope looking. And the thing is, how can you not like a truck with a V10 motor in it, bro? Like, how can you not like that? We all do know a lot of trucks nowadays are going to have 4 cylinders and stuff like that, which in ways it is going to work depending on what you want to do. But this thing had a V10 from a Viper in a pickup truck. So yeah, this thing was going to be very unique. And what's funny is I kind of feel like this truck would have really fit the Crew 2 very well. Like we all do know, this thing was going to be great in the Crew 1. You could drive everywhere with it, obviously different specs. And I was kind of wondering why this thing never carried over to the Crew 2. I don't know what happened there. Obviously something happened that we didn't see, kind of similar to like something like, I guess you could say the BRZ, how the Subaru is pretty much out of the Crew now. It is most likely going to be fairly similar to something like that, to where maybe something happened along the lines of the licensing and why we don't see the vehicle anymore. But it's not like we're not going to have Dodge in the game, or even Ram for that matter. So yeah, I don't really understand it. One of the other ways I was looking at this, though, is we all do know that the Crew 2 is going to be an upgraded version of the Crew 1. A lot of people are probably going to argue, including myself, that the Crew 1 is still better in a lot of aspects, but we all do know that, yes, the Crew 2 is going to be upgraded. So let's imagine for a second if the Ram was in that game, or even something like Motorfest. I feel like it would have fit it very well. We would have had something like the specs that are still in there. Would have had different races you could do with them. Maybe the physics on the truck would have been a bit different and maybe a bit better. We also do know maybe seeing like a racing version of the Dodge, maybe that was an issue or something. I don't know. Maybe having something like a Street AK, like a Street Tier 2 in that game may have not worked or something. It is kind of weird to think about, man, because you all do, like, if you look at something like the Crew 1 to the Crew 2 to the Crew Motorfest, there is going to be differences in each game, and some are going to be good, others are obviously going to be a step backwards. So some might even argue that maybe seeing this truck in those games might not have been the best idea. I mean, I do know for a fact it probably would have sounded a bit better, because we can't agree the vehicle sounds in the Crew 1 might not be all that great. Personally, it doesn't bother me all that much, as I just enjoy driving and racing and stuff like that. Like, yeah, the cars aren't going to sound the absolute best like they would even a bit better in the Crew 2, and Obviously, we're going to have better engine sounds at Motorfest and stuff like that. But I still feel like a lot of people would be happy to drive this truck around even if it was in those games and maybe the sound wasn't all that great, which I don't think that would really bother that many people. As I have been noticing people in the Discord going, yo, where's the Dodge SRT-10 and the Crew 2 and stuff? And I'm like, wait, the truck's not in that game. And when I went on to look, I was legit really surprised. I was like, wait, I thought this truck was in the game the entire time, but it turns out it wasn't. So jumping back into the Crew 1 and using like something like the dirt version of it, then going into the rally raid, which you guys are going to see in the background. I absolutely love driving this truck in rally raid. In fact, back in the Crew 1, AK, we're now in the Crew Unlimited, this thing is still going to be very good in the rally raid category. Not only that, I also think it's going to be a really good looking rally raid truck. I love the way the tires are on the back, and we're also then going to have something like the suspension detail on there. We're going to have the front bumper with the lights. We have the light bar on the top, and everybody does know at this point, I really do love my off-road vehicles in these games. This is something I really do love about Forza Horizon 5, despite the flaws the games have, which we all do know every game has flaws in some way. But some people are also going to be a fan of being able to like off-road one of these trucks, or going, yo, I really like having other rally raid versions of these, which I really do feel like in TCM they kind of just threw the class into the game, went okay anyway, and they kind of just gave it up. Having something like the Ram in there would have been pretty dope. I would have loved to see this truck in the Crew 2, but obviously that's not happening. And I really do kind of wonder about that, guys, because I feel like certain categories in this game kind of just fell off a bit. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say and come out and go, okay, well, every class is terrible on Motorfest. I'm not saying that, or even the Crew 2, because there are different games there. But I do feel like some classes tend to get way more love than the other ones. And I do kind of wish we had more of these rally raid type of trucks. Like, this thing is so dope. And that was something, again, that I liked about Forza. I can go on there and build like a Ram Power Wagon, or go build like a Chevy Silverado and go do different things. Like, yeah, it's not going to be a full-on trophy truck build. We're going to have those. Those are separate vehicles on there, but we're still going to have the option for it. In the Crew Motorfest, like when I'm trying to off-road and stuff, man, I don't know what it is, but I simply just don't enjoy it. Does anybody else feel like that, or is that just me? I don't know. I just simply do not enjoy it that much. I can jump on the Crew 1, and yes, we can 100% stand here and say the physics are not that great, or maybe they're not going to feel all that good jumping and stuff like that. 100%. I respect that stuff, but I also would still prefer to jump on the Crew Unlimited, which again, this game came out, what, 9 years ago? Not the Crew Unlimited, but y'all know what I mean. This game came out 9 years ago, and I'd rather jump on this game and go off-road, mess around, try out different vehicles, and then find myself driving in an abandoned airfield and something like the Ram really does hit trying to escape the cops. Now, I do know they're going to be different games and all that, guys, but it is kind of odd to me how each game does tend to change in some good ways, and then you can look and go, okay, well, we went 3 steps forward here. That's awesome. But then you look around the other side and go, oh, but we went 5 steps backwards there, and it just doesn't really make any sense with how, like, a newer game will come out and then get rid of something from the old one and stuff like that, especially if it's like a sequel. Again, I understand the entire licensing thing because I'm sure somebody is going to mention that, but doesn't it make you all wonder on, like, how the newer games kind of go forward than backwards? Like, I really don't understand it. I'm not specifically talking about the Crew either. This can also be talked about in Call of Duty, Need for Speed, and a lot of other game series as well. Even Battlefield as well. Like, if you look at some of that stuff and go, oh, this game has some cool features, but I hate that one. I don't like this one. Why was that removed? Why is this added? Like, I think that's probably something a lot of people do end up doing. And going back into the Crew 1 for me and driving some of these vehicles and just messing around with the map, I did end up going back into the Crew 2, guys, and trying to play it a bit. And to be honest, I don't know, man. The game just doesn't have the same vibes and stuff. I did like the way, like, there are some cool things about the Crew 2 that I do like about it, obviously. Like, there is newer vehicles in that game because the game is newer. So there's going to be different ones in there. But the Crew 1 is still going to have that special vibe to it. And it's also going to have vehicles like the Ram SRT-10 here that you simply don't find in the newer games, which is very odd, again, considering we have Dodge and Ram. Anybody want to explain that? Subaru I could see because something happened along the lines of, like, you know, Subaru and Ubisoft or something there. So that I'm going to understand. But honestly, the rest of it, bro, I really don't know. Something don't make any sense. But if you guys are looking to drive a different type of truck, or you are a fan of the Ram SRT-10, you could jump on the Crew Unlimited and explore this truck, drive it around most of the United States in a street, dirt, rally raid. always say Rally and Raid because of the other games. We're also then going to have something like the Circuit, which is a crazy looking wide body. And yes, if you upgrade it, it is going to be very fast, handles very well, which is kind of hilarious. Do let me know your thoughts on the Ram SRT-10 in the comments below. Do you guys wish this truck would have carried over to the Crew 2 and Motorfest? And what are your thoughts on why this thing didn't make it into those games? Considering we're going to have Dodge and Ram in the newer games, something doesn't honestly add up there.